Before the sun even touched the exam hall windows, I watched the most beautiful girl in our year lose the color in her face. Her name was Selena Vale, and for 3 years she had looked untouchable in every hallway she entered, like the school had been built around her smile. Perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect little group of followers who laughed before she finished a joke and gasped before she finished a lie. But that morning, at exactly 6:18, with mist still hanging over the courtyard tiles and the final mock exam papers locked behind the deputy principal's office door, Selena was shaking so badly that her silver pen slipped from her fingers and clattered under the bench. No one else noticed at first. Everyone was too busy cramming formulas, whispering predictions, praying to whatever god handled multiple choice sections and cruel essay prompts. I noticed because I had been waiting for this moment for 32 days, 7 hours, and 12 minutes. I noticed because the study plan in her hand was mine. Or at least she thought it was mine. The folder had my handwriting on the cover, my color-coded tabs on the side, my little star marks beside, guaranteed exam focus. It looked exactly like the plan I had carried in my last life, the one she stole, copied, twisted, and used to climb over my ruined body. But this time, every highlighted page inside was bait. Every priority topic was a trap. Every red circle warning was a door leading away from the real exam. And when Selena flipped from page to page, lips moving soundlessly, eyes darting across the notes she had trusted more than her own brain, I felt something cold and calm settle inside me. Not joy, not mercy. Something sharper. Balance. In my first life, I had been stupid in the softest way. Not stupid because I lacked intelligence, but because I believed effort made people kind. I believed that if I helped enough, shared enough, stayed humble enough, no one would want to hurt me. I came from a small apartment above my aunt's closed laundry shop, where the pipes groaned in winter, and my desk was a folding table that wobbled whenever buses passed outside. I studied under a yellow lamp that flickered when it rained, memorized chemistry reactions while my neighbors argued, and taped vocabulary lists to the bathroom mirror because I was terrified of forgetting one word that could cost me 1 mark. By our final year, I had become the girl everyone came to when they were desperate. Mara, can you explain this proof? Mara, did you make a timeline for modern history? Mara, what do you think the mock exam will focus on? I never said no. I thought helping them made me useful. I thought being useful meant being safe. Selena understood that weakness before I did. She did not ask for everything at once. That would have made me careful. She began with a smile across the library table, a soft sigh, and one question about a calculus pattern she just couldn't see. Then she brought me coffee. Then she called me brilliant in front of others. Then she said she admired girls like me, girls who worked hard without needing attention. I remember how happy that made me. I remember lowering my guard like a fool opening a window during a storm. The first time she saw my real study plan, her eyes changed. I had spent 2 months building it. Not just notes, not just summaries, but a full prediction system based on teacher habits, past mock papers, marking weight, forgotten chapters, repeated phrasing, and the strange little hints our teachers dropped when they thought no one was listening. I knew which biology diagrams had not appeared in 3 years. I knew which literature themes our head examiner adored, but pretended to avoid. I knew which statistics question had been rewritten on 3 different practice sheets with only the numbers changed. My study plan was not magic. It was hours and hours of observation, error analysis, and ugly, lonely discipline. I carried it in a black folder because I was afraid loose pages would get damaged. Selena touched the cover like she had found a sacred object. Mara, she whispered, you're actually terrifying. I laughed because I thought she meant it kindly. She asked to borrow it for 1 night before our second mock exam. Just 1 night. She said her mother was pressuring her. Her tutor was useless, and she was scared she would disappoint everyone. I hesitated, and that was when she lowered her eyes. She looked so small then, so unlike the girl who ruled our grade, that I handed her the folder and said, please don't show anyone. She pressed it to her chest and promised. A promise from Selena Vale was like perfume sprayed over rot, sweet enough to hide the smell until you were already sick. She did not return the folder the next morning. She said she had left it at home by accident. Then she said she would bring it after lunch. Then she cried in the bathroom and told two girls that I was being cruel to her because I wanted to keep the top rank for myself. By the time the bell rang, half the year had heard that I made secret elite notes, but refused to help anyone except students I could control. When I finally cornered Selena behind the auditorium, she looked at me with wet lashes and said, "Why are you acting like this? I already gave it back to you." I thought she was panicking. I thought there had been a misunderstanding. Then her friend Cass opened her bag and pulled out a folder that looked exactly like mine, except the pages inside were rearranged, missing, copied, and marked with Selena's name. "This is hers," Cass said loudly enough for others to hear. "Are you trying to steal it?" That was the first crack in my life. The second came when Selena used my predictions to score first in the mock exam and smiled modestly at assembly, while teachers praised her independent initiative. The third came when someone anonymously reported that I had smuggled leaked exam hints from the staff office. The evidence was a photo of my study plan beside a teacher's locked filing cabinet. Selena had taken that photo herself. I knew because my black folder had a tiny crescent tear on the bottom corner, and there it was in the photo, right under the staff room light. No one believed me. That was the part that killed me before my body ever touched the hospital sheets. My homeroom teacher said things like, "Mara, even gifted students make desperate choices." The deputy principal asked why so many pages in my notes matched the final mock if I had not obtained information unfairly. Selena sat outside the office with her friends hugging her as if she were the victim of my ambition. My classmates, the ones I had tutored for free, avoided my eyes. Some because they believed I had cheated. Some because they knew I had not, and were too afraid to say anything. My scholarship recommendation was suspended. My aunt received a call from the school and sat on the edge of my bed that night, looking older than I had ever seen her. "Just tell them the truth," she said, and I laughed so hard I started crying because I had been telling the truth all day and truth had turned into a language nobody spoke. The week before the national exam, my name was still under investigation. Selena released a long post about academic integrity without mentioning me, and everyone praised her grace. I studied anyway because that was all I knew how to do. I studied with shaking hands, headaches, and a heart that felt scraped raw. On exam dawn, I walked across the road outside school carrying a clear pencil case and a stomach full of fear. A delivery truck ran the red light. There was a scream, the bright white flash of headlights, and Selena's voice from somewhere behind me saying, "Oh my God." Then nothing. But death was not nothing. Death was waking up to my aunt pounding on my bedroom door and shouting that if I did not get up, I would miss morning self-study. I opened my eyes to the same yellow lamp, the same cracked ceiling, the same biology chart taped above my desk. For several seconds, I thought the hospital had strange wallpaper. Then I saw the date glowing on my phone, March 18th. 32 days before the final mock exam. 2 months before the national exam. 1 day before Selena first borrowed my study plan. I vomited into my trash bin so violently, my aunt nearly broke the door down. She found me sitting on the floor with my school shirt half buttoned, crying without making a sound. She thought I had food poisoning. I thought I had lost my mind. At school, the corridors were exactly as they had been before disaster learned my name. Students complained about homework they would later forget. Teachers carried stacks of practice papers, like holy punishment. Selena walked past me near the stairwell, sunlight catching in her hair, and smiled. "Morning, Mara," she said warmly. Warmly. Like she had not stolen my life. Like she had not polished her shoes on my future. My fingers tightened around my bag strap until my nails hurt. In my last life, that smile had made me blush with gratitude. In this one, it taught me something useful. Monsters looked prettiest before they fed. I did not confront her. That is where a weaker revenge story would have gone wrong. I did not slap her in the hallway, scream that I knew everything, or warn my classmates that the school beauty was a fraud wearing lip gloss. People love dramatic accusations when they happen in stories. In real life, a poor girl accusing a beloved, perfect girl only sounds jealous. I had already learned the price of being right without proof. So I smiled back. I went to class. I copied the date at the top of my notebook. I answered 2 questions in biology and deliberately got the third one slightly wrong so my teacher would not call on me again. Then I opened my laptop under the desk during break and made 2 folders. The first was named Real Plan, and it went into an encrypted drive. The second was named Final Mock Master Plan, and I filled it with poison wrapped in my own handwriting. Not obvious poison. I was not careless. If Selena opened the folder and saw nonsense, she would suspect me. So I built the fake study plan the way a chef builds a dish for a guest with no taste: fragrant, layered, convincing, and deadly. I used real concepts, real diagrams, real formulas, but weighted them wrong. I marked chapters as low probability when I knew they were central. I marked beautifully detailed but unlikely topics as core. I included old examiner patterns that had already changed. I created memorization shortcuts that were technically accurate but exam useless. I wrote urgent notes like, "Teacher hinted this 3 times," beside topics our teacher had mentioned only because students kept asking. By midnight, the fake plan looked so brilliant that even I almost admired it. That was when I wrote on the cover in red ink, "Do not share." Selena would not have been able to resist if I had tied it with a ribbon. The next day, I let the performance begin. Selena approached me after literature, exactly as she had in my first life, holding 2 coffees and wearing that fragile smile she used when she wanted a door unlocked. "Mara, can I sit?" she asked, already sitting. She pushed 1 cup toward me. Caramel latte, extra foam, the same one. My stomach twisted because memory is cruel in small details. "I've been struggling with the essay structure," she said, tapping her pen against her notebook. "You always see patterns before everyone else. I swear, your brain scares me." In my last life, I had laughed. This time, I looked embarrassed, as if praise still worked on me. "It's not that special," I said and shifted my bag just enough for the corner of the fake folder to show. Her eyes flicked down. There it was. Hunger. Not curiosity, not admiration, hunger. She recovered quickly, tucking hair behind her ear. "Is that for the mock exam?" she asked. I hesitated on purpose. Silence is not empty when used correctly. It can be bait dangling over water. "Sort of," I said. "Just my messy plan." Her fingers moved toward it, stopped, then folded prettily over her notebook. "You know I would never ask to copy it," she said. Of course she would not ask directly. Thieves prefer unlocked windows. I pulled the folder closer to my chest and whispered, "Please don't mention it. I'm only doing this because I really need the scholarship ranking." Her expression softened into sympathy, so polished it could cut glass. "Of course," she said. "Your secret is safe with me." That was the first lie of my second life, and this time I was grateful for it. For the first week, I fed her glimpses. A page left open on my desk while I sharpened a pencil. A photograph accidentally visible on my tablet screen. A conversation with my only real friend, Nia, staged within earshot of Selena's table. Nia had believed me in the first life, but too late, after the accusation had already crushed me. In this life, I told her everything on the 3rd day after rebirth, not the death part at first, because even friendship has limits before breakfast. I told her Selena had stolen notes from me before in a version of events I framed as a dream so vivid it felt like a warning. Nia listened, chewing the end of her straw, then said, "So you want to set a mousetrap for a girl wearing designer perfume?" That was why I loved her. She did not ask for proof of my fear before offering strategy. She helped me build the fake plan's public shadow. We let people overhear that I was focusing heavily on comparative poetry because our literature teacher had basically confirmed it. We whispered about an advanced probability theorem that looked terrifying enough to impress lazy, ambitious students. We mentioned that the biology practical diagrams would likely come from endocrine regulation, not embryology, because embryology had appeared in a worksheet recently. In truth, I knew from my first life that embryology would be the monster question worth 12 marks, and the endocrine diagram would be a 2-mark label and move on. We planted each seed carefully. Never too many in one day. The best lies do not arrive as speeches. They drip. Selena did not steal the folder immediately. That was one of the few things I respected about her. She had patience. She was not an amateur grabbing jewelry from a counter. She built stories around theft before theft happened. On Monday, she asked to compare just one page of history timelines. On Wednesday, she sighed that her tutor was wasting time on irrelevant topics and wondered if I had any system for sorting priorities. On Friday, she told Cass loudly that she admired students who refused to share because boundaries are healthy, then looked at me with saintly approval. By the next week, half the class thought I was guarding a legendary study weapon. Good. I needed witnesses to know the folder existed before it disappeared. Meanwhile, my real work moved underground. I no longer studied in the library. I studied in the art storage room after getting permission from the elderly art teacher, Mrs. Delaney, who liked me because I once fixed her projector. Among clay masks and dusty easels, I built the real plan again, better than before. I corrected the few mistakes I had made in my first life. I tightened essay frameworks, rewrote biology diagrams from memory, and added traps I knew teachers used in marking. Nia joined me after volleyball practice, sprawled on the floor with flashcards. Sometimes we worked until the janitor knocked and told us we looked like ghosts. I ate dinner from a container on my lap and slept 4 hours a night, not because I romanticized burnout, but because fear had turned into fuel. This time, every hour mattered. This time, nobody would walk out wearing my work like a stolen crown. The first true pattern interruption came on a rainy Thursday when Selena asked me to tutor her in the empty language room. I expected it. Same room, same rain, same jasmine perfume. In my first life, this was where she had cried about pressure and convinced me to lend the folder. I entered with the fake folder in my bag and my phone recording audio in my blazer pocket. Not because I planned to use it immediately. Proof is like medicine. Timing decides whether it heals or poisons you. Selena sat by the window, looking pale and beautiful, raindrops sliding behind her like a film scene designed to make villains sympathetic. "Mara," she said softly, "do you ever feel like everyone already decided who you are?" I almost laughed. She had used that exact line before. Last time, it made me confess that I felt invisible beside girls like her. This time, I said, all the time. She leaned forward. "People think I'm perfect. They don't understand how exhausting that is." There it was, the velvet knife. If I comforted her enough, she would ask for help. If I resisted, she would call me cold. I looked down at my hands and gave her what she wanted, but crooked. "At least they see you," I said. "When you're invisible, people take from you and act surprised if you bleed." Her eyes flashed. Only for a second. She heard the warning under the sentence and did not know whether it was accidental. "That's dark," she said with a little laugh. "Sorry," I replied. "Stress." Then I opened the fake folder and showed her a page covered in neat red arrows. Her gaze locked onto it like a predator hearing a heartbeat. She asked to take a photo. I said no. She apologized. 5 minutes later, she asked to borrow my summary of just the poetry section. I said I was not comfortable. She looked wounded. I let the silence stretch until she touched the edge of the folder with 2 fingers. "I wouldn't show anyone," she whispered. "I know," I said, and gently closed it. That was not refusal. That was seasoning. Desire grows stronger when denied politely. By the end of the session, she had learned almost nothing useful, but she had seen enough color-coded pages to become desperate. When we left, I walked down the hallway first and deliberately stopped at the bathroom. Inside, I removed the fake folder from my bag and placed it on top of the sinks while pretending to fix my hair. 2 younger students came in, saw me, and left. Perfect. Selena entered 20 seconds later. "You forgot your," she began, then stopped as I turned from the mirror. I smiled, embarrassed, grabbed the folder, and said, "I'm so tired lately." She smiled back. Her eyes were too bright. That evening, I copied the fake folder one more time and added the final lure, a page titled Exam Dawn Emergency Review. At the top I wrote, "Read only morning of exam. Do not waste time earlier." On that page, I listed 5 topics guaranteed not to be major questions. It was cruel. It was also exactly the kind of cruelty she had mistaken for ambition when she used it on me. The theft happened during physical education under a sky so blue it looked fake. Our class was on the field running laps we all pretended mattered. I left my bag in the classroom as instructed. Before leaving, I placed the fake folder inside the front pocket, visible if someone opened the zipper, but not visible from outside. I also placed a tiny strip of clear tape across the zipper teeth, a trick Nia suggested, so I would know if it had been opened. More importantly, I asked Mrs. Delaney if I could leave a small portable camera facing the classroom corridor because someone had been messing with my supplies. She agreed to let me place it inside the art display shelf opposite our homeroom door, not inside the classroom, but enough to capture who entered during PE. I did not need a perfect video of Selena removing the folder. I needed enough to make denial expensive. On the field, Selena ran beside me for half a lap, breathing lightly while the rest of us suffered. "You look tired," she said. "Too much studying?" "Probably," I replied. "Maybe take a break," she said. "You don't want to burn out before the mock." In my first life, I would have heard concern. In this life, I heard calculation. After PE, we returned sweaty and irritated. My bag zipper was closed. The tape strip had snapped. The folder was still inside, but 3 pages had been removed, photographed, and replaced slightly out of order. Selena was good. My pulse stayed calm. I had expected theft. I had not expected the relief that came with it. A trap is only a decoration until someone steps in. From that day, Selena changed. Not outwardly. Outwardly, she remained gracious, diligent, bright as fresh snow. But I had known her long enough across 2 lives to see the difference. Her lunch breaks moved to the back table with Cass and 2 other girls, where they bent over printed copies of my fake pages. She stopped asking teachers broad questions and began asking oddly specific ones from the false plan, trying to confirm the bait without revealing where she got it. In chemistry, she asked whether electrochemical cell notation would be a major synthesis question, and Mr. Rowe looked puzzled because he had told us twice that chemical equilibrium would dominate. In literature, she asked for extra practice comparing 2 poems that were not even on our narrowed list, and Ms. Harrow said, "You're welcome to stretch yourself, Selena, but I would not neglect the unseen prose." Selena laughed sweetly and said she was covering everything. She was not. I watched her spend whole evenings in the library memorizing beautiful, useless structures. Her followers copied her because they copied everything. Cass made flashcards based on Selena's version of my fake page. 2 boys from the advanced math group asked if they could buy her priority list, and she pretended to be offended before letting them photograph it behind a cafeteria. The poison spread faster than I expected. That worried me for exactly 1 night. Then Nia reminded me, "Nobody forced them to steal from you." Still, I did not want innocent classmates destroyed by collateral damage. So, I did something Selena would never expect. I began quietly helping the students who asked honestly. Not everyone received the real plan. I was not reborn to become a public resource again. But when Lila from the dormitory came to me with red eyes and said, "I know you don't share notes anymore, but can you teach me how to study the embryo diagrams? I'm lost," I helped her. When Tomas admitted he had wasted 3 weeks on the wrong math chapters and asked for a basic checklist, I gave him one without predictions, just structure. When 2 girls from the lower rank group asked Nia if my chapter map was real, I created a simplified version that covered the actual essentials without revealing the full predictive system. We met in the art storage room, then the empty music room, then sometimes under the stairwell with lunch balanced on our knees. I taught them how to read marking verbs, how to stop memorizing everything equally, how to turn teacher comments into exam clues. I did not say, "Selena is lying." I said, "Do not trust any priority list you did not build or verify." That sentence traveled farther than I meant it to. By the 3rd week, a strange split formed in our grade. Selena's circle grew louder, shinier, more confident, carrying copied versions of the fake plan like contraband treasure. My small group grew quieter and steadier. We asked less glamorous questions. We practiced ugly fundamentals. We made mistakes where no one could see and corrected them before they became public. For For the first time in both lives, I learned the difference between being used and being useful. One empties you. The other builds something around you. Selena noticed the split.
Of course she did.
Her power depended on everyone facing her like sunflowers. During lunch one afternoon, she approached our table with Cass behind her and a smile that made conversation die around us. "Mara," she said, "I heard you're running secret sessions now." The cafeteria noise thinned. People love conflict more than food. I looked up from my rice and said, "Just studying with friends." "That's nice," she said. "I thought you were worried about sharing." The trap was obvious. If I said I was sharing, she could paint me as hypocritical. If I said I was not, she could accuse me of hoarding. I wiped my fingers on a napkin. "I'm worried about people taking work without asking." Her smile tightened. Cass scoffed. "That sounds dramatic." "Does it?" I asked. "Then it probably doesn't apply to you." A tiny sound moved through the table. Not laughter exactly. More like air escaping a sealed room. Selena's eyes cooled. "You've changed lately," she said. "In my first life, that would have frightened me. Being liked had once felt like shelter. Now it felt like a leash." "I hope so," I said, and returned to my lunch. She stood there for 2 seconds too long, waiting for me to fill the silence with apology. I did not. When she finally walked away, Nia leaned close and whispered, "Careful. Cornered beauty queens start biting." I looked at Selena's back, at the way her friends clustered around her, at the folder copies tucked under their arms. "Good," I said. "Let her open her mouth." She did more than bite. She staged a rescue. 2 weeks before the final mock, Selena announced that she would host a free exam strategy evening in the dormitory common hall for anyone feeling overwhelmed. The posters were pastel, handwritten, and sickeningly humble. "No competition, just community," they said. A photo of Selena smiling with a stack of books appeared on the school forum, captioned by Cass, "This is what real leadership looks like." In my first life, that post would have crushed me. In this one, I admired the efficiency. She had stolen from me, built a false empire from the theft, and now planned to look generous by distributing stolen bait. I attended, not visibly at first. I stood near the back with a hooded jacket, arms folded, while nearly 60 students crowded the hall. Selena stood at the front beside a whiteboard, glowing under fluorescent lights. "I know everyone is scared," she began. "And I know some students make studying feel like a private weapon. But I believe knowledge should be shared." Applause broke out. Nia, beside me, muttered something rude into her sleeve. Selena clicked to her first slide. My fake structure appeared, cleaned up with prettier fonts. My headings. My color system. My false priorities. She had not even changed the order. Heat moved up my neck, not from surprise but from memory. For 1 second, I saw my first life again. Assembly, accusations, Selena's modest smile. My hand twitched toward my phone. Nia touched my wrist. "Not yet," she whispered. She was right. A trap sprung too early only catches the air. So I waited while Selena taught everyone the wrong path with saintly patience. She warned them not to waste time on embryology beyond basic definitions. She advised them to prepare memorized openings for comparative poetry because unseen prose is unlikely to carry heavy marks. She told advanced math students to focus on vector geometry proofs that looked difficult and neglected the statistics interpretation questions our teacher loved. She called chemical equilibrium background knowledge. I watched students write it all down, and my conscience clawed at me. These were not all thieves. Some were just scared. Some believed Selena because everyone had trained them to. After the session, I posted an anonymous message on the school forum from a new account. Before trusting any mock exam strategy, compare it with teacher revision sheets from the past 3 weeks. Don't ignore embryology, unseen prose, equilibrium, or statistics interpretation. The post was plain, no accusations, no drama. It received 12 likes before Cass commented, "Someone sounds jealous." Then Selena replied with a smiling emoji and wrote, "Healthy debate is good. Everyone should study in the way that works best for them." That reply earned 80 likes. The warnings sank beneath praise. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark art room for a long time. Revenge feels clean when imagined. In real life, it splashes. The next morning, I changed strategy. I could not save everyone, but I could leave doors open. During homeroom, I asked our teacher, Mr. Ives, whether he could request that each subject teacher post official final revision boundaries because conflicting student-made lists were spreading. He frowned. Conflicting lists? I shrugged.
People are stressed.
It might help to have teachers clarify. Mr. Ives was not cruel, just tired and allergic to student drama. But he cared about results. By lunch, an official notice appeared. Final mock exam revision should follow teacher-issued checklists only. Unverified student predictions may be incomplete or misleading. Then each department uploaded broad but accurate review points. Selena's plan was not named, but the warning struck like a bell. Students began comparing. Some panicked early enough to recover. Others doubled down because admitting you were fooled is harder than being fooled. Selena, brilliantly, turned the notice in her favor. That's exactly what I said, she told people. Use my plan as a supplement, not a replacement. Except her followers had already been using it as scripture. Cass snapped at a younger girl who questioned the biology section. Selena knows what she's doing, she said. She always ranks top. That sentence followed me all day. She always ranks top. In my first life because she had taken my plan. In this life, because she was walking confidently into a room with a map I drew upside down. 10 days before the exam, the second theft happened, and this one almost ruined everything. I had grown too confident. I kept my real plan on an encrypted drive, yes, but I printed selected practice sets for my small group and stored them in Mrs. Delaney's locked cabinet. Only Mrs. Delaney, Nia, and I knew, or so I thought. On Monday after school, I found the cabinet door slightly open. My heart stopped. Inside, the folders were still there, but one practice set had been moved. I knew because I arranged paper clips by color, a habit from poverty and paranoia. Blue clip on biology, yellow on literature, green on math. The biology clip was upside down. My hands went cold. If Selena had seen the real embryology practice set, she might correct course. Worse, she might accuse me again using actual evidence of hidden predictions. I checked the camera in the art room.
No Selena. No Cass.
Instead, the footage showed Adrian, a quiet boy from the scholarship track, entering while Mrs. Delaney helped another teacher carry canvases. He opened the cabinet, photographed 3 pages, and left. Adrian had attended Selena's strategy evening. He had also come to 2 of my stairwell sessions, asked sincere questions, and thanked me afterward. Betrayal in a second life does not hurt less. It just hurts more efficiently. I found Adrian behind the gym, where he always went to call his mother. He saw my face and lowered his phone.
Mara, he said.
I can explain. Start with why your explanation begins inside a locked cabinet. He flinched. His mother's voice crackled through the speaker before he ended the call. For a moment, he looked 12 years old. Selena said you had the real plan, he whispered. She said the one going around was incomplete because you were trying to make her look bad. She said if I got proof, she'd share her recommendation contact with me. My family can't afford tutoring. You thought stealing from me was cheaper. He looked down. I wanted to destroy him. I wanted to tell him that poverty was not a permission slip, that I had studied through hunger and fear without putting my hands into someone else's cabinet. But I also remembered my first life, how desperation makes morality feel like a luxury sold in clean neighborhoods. So I did something harder than shouting. I held out my hand. Your phone. His eyes widened. Mara, now. He gave it to me. I deleted the photos, then checked recently deleted, messages, cloud sync, and his chat with Selena. He had not sent them yet. There, in the chat, was Selena's message. Just confirm whether she's hiding a different version. If she is, everyone deserves to know. It looked righteous. It was not. I photographed the chat with my phone. Adrian whispered. Are you going to report me? I looked at him for a long time. No, I said. You're going to earn not being reported. That was how Adrian became my reluctant witness. Not friend. not ally at first. Witness. I made him write a statement about Selena, asking him to check my cabinet. I made him send her a message saying he found nothing useful, only old practice sheets. I made him attend every official teacher revision session from then on and sit away from Selena's group. He agreed because guilt had finally reached him, and because I think he saw in my face that I was done being gentle in ways that harmed me. Selena did not know the door had closed. She kept building pressure. 2 days later, an anonymous rumor spread that I had 2 study plans, one fake for classmates and one secret for chosen students. It was close enough to truth to be dangerous. People stared. A girl I had helped with chemistry asked if I had deliberately misled everyone. I said, "Did I ever give you wrong topics?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "Then judge what I gave you, not what someone who stole from me says I gave her." Her eyes widened at the word stole. I had not said it publicly before. The rumor shifted, not vanished, shifted. That afternoon, Selena approached me in the library, not smiling. "You should be careful," she said under her breath as she passed my table. "People don't like girls who act superior." I turned a page. "Then stop acting superior." Her footsteps paused. Bookshelves hid us from the room. For the first time since Rebirth, she let me see her real expression. It was ugly with fear. "You think you're clever," she whispered. I looked up.
No.
"I think I learned." 5 days before the exam, Selena made her boldest move. She reported me, not for cheating this time, not yet, for creating academic hostility and intentionally distributing misleading materials. It was clever because it made my fake plan sound like an attack before anyone could ask why she had copied it. Mr. Ives called me into the counseling office, where the year coordinator, Miss Fain, sat with a printed complaint. Selena was already there, looking pale and brave. Cass sat beside her as a witness. I sat opposite them with my hands folded, heart hammering but face still. Miss Fain began carefully. "Mara, concerns have been raised that you may have created and circulated false study materials to disadvantage other students." Selena lowered her eyes. "I didn't want to report this," she said, voice trembling perfectly. "But people are scared. Some students followed notes that now seem inconsistent with teacher checklists, and they said the notes came from Mara. There it was. She had distributed stolen pages widely enough that when they failed, she wanted the blame to land back on me. In my first life, this kind of meeting had buried me because I entered with only truth and panic. In this life, I entered with a folder of timestamps. "Can I ask one question?" I said. Ms. Fain nodded. I turned to Selena. "When did I give you my study plan?" Selena blinked. "You didn't give it to me directly. That's the issue. Copies were circulating. So, I never shared it with you." "Not with me, no." "Then how do you know it came from me?" Cass jumped in. "Everyone knows your handwriting." I nodded slowly, as if considering this. Then I removed 3 sheets from my folder. Screenshots of Selena's slides from her strategy evening, photos of my fake pages created before the event, and the corridor camera still showing Selena entering our homeroom during PE while our class was on the field. Not enough alone. Together, a shape. Ms. Fain's expression changed by degrees. Selena saw it and pivoted instantly. "I went back because I forgot my hair tie," she said. "And those slides were based on general revision discussions. You can't accuse me of stealing because our notes look similar." "I'm not accusing," I said. "I'm asking why you reported me for circulating materials I never gave you, while you hosted a session using pages matching a private folder photographed after you entered our classroom during PE." The room became so quiet I heard the air conditioner click. Cass's mouth opened, then closed. Ms. Fain asked, "Mara, why did you create materials you now describe as private but inaccurate?" This was the dangerous part. A righteous adult might punish me for baiting theft even if theft happened. So I told a careful truth. They were personal rough notes. I label uncertain topics aggressively when brainstorming. I later verify against official teacher checklists. They were not for distribution. That's why the cover says, "Do not share." I slid over a photo of the cover. Selena's jaw tightened. Ms. Fain looked at it for several seconds. "Selena," she said, "did you Or, did you not copy from this folder? Selena's eyes filled with tears. Tears used to terrify teachers. They still worked on some. I may have seen a few pages, she whispered, but I only wanted to help people. Mara has been secretive and everyone was anxious, and I thought, you thought my private rough notes became community property because you wanted applause, I said. Miss Fane warned, Mara. I leaned back.
Sorry.
I was not sorry, but I had learned tone mattered more than truth when adults were deciding whether truth was inconvenient. The meeting ended without punishment, which Selena counted as survival and I counted as progress. Ms. Fane ordered her to remove all copied materials from the school forum and stop hosting unofficial strategy sessions. She also told me to keep my study materials secure and avoid provocative behavior. Provocative behavior. That was what they called locking a door after being robbed. Still, the result was useful. Selena walked out with her reputation cracked, not shattered. Cracked was better. Shattered reputations make martyrs. Cracked reputations make people watch closely. Over the next 2 days, whispers followed her instead of worship. Some students deleted her plan. Some quietly asked teachers what to prioritize. Cass insisted the whole thing was Mara's scheme because why else would she make fake notes? That question reached me in fragments all day. I answered it only once, when a boy from Selena's circle blocked my path and said, "So you admit you made misleading notes?" I looked at him. If I write, "jump off the roof" in my diary and someone steals it, prints it, and calls it a fitness plan, whose fault is the broken leg? He stared. Nia, behind me, choked on her drink. The boy stepped aside. By then, I had stopped trying to win everyone. The need to be universally believed had destroyed me once. This life, I only needed enough truth in enough places that Selena could no longer move invisibly. 3 nights before the exam, I dreamed of the truck. Not a metaphor. Not a symbolic memory. The headlights came back full and white. I woke with my heart slamming against my ribs, one hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. My aunt knocked softly this time instead of shouting. "Nightmare?" she asked through the door. I opened it because in this life, I had started letting her see pieces of me before they became ruins. She came in wearing her faded blue robe and sat on the edge of my bed. For a while, neither of us spoke. The city outside hummed. "When your parents died," she said quietly, "I used to wake up thinking I heard your mother calling from the kitchen." I looked at her. We rarely talked about my parents. Their absence lived in our apartment like furniture too heavy to move. Did it stop? I asked.
No, she said.
I just learned which mornings were real. I almost told her everything then. The death, the rebirth, the way Selena's smile still made my bones remember impact. Instead, I rested my head on my aunt's shoulder like I had not done since I was small. She smelled like laundry soap and peppermint balm.
"I'm scared," he whispered.
She stroked my hair.
"Good.
Fear means you know something matters. Just don't let it drive." That sentence stayed with me more than any exam formula. The next morning, I added one line to the top of my real plan. Fear does not drive. I do. The day before the final mock exam arrived with wind sharp enough to make banners snap against the school gates. Everyone looked half mad. Students walked while reading. Someone cried in the stairwell over a calculator battery. Teachers pretended to be calm and failed. Selena arrived late, which never happened. Her hair was perfect, but her eyes had shadows no concealer could soften. She had lost control of the narrative. Worse, she had lost time. After the meeting, she could no longer openly use the fake plan, but she had already invested too much in it. The official checklists forced her to realize huge gaps. She tried to cover everything at once, the fatal mistake of top students who discover too late that confidence is not knowledge. During biology review, Mr. Rowe drew the early embryo stages on the board and asked, "Who can explain the transition from morula to blastocyst and why implantation timing matters?"
Selena looked down.
Cass looked at Selena. Lila raised her hand and answered clearly, because we had practiced that exact concept until she could explain it half asleep. Mr. Rose smiled. Excellent. I did not look at Selena. I did not need to. Her silence was louder than any gasp. In literature, Ms. Harrow announced that unseen prose analysis would likely test adaptability, not memorize themes. Tomas whispered, "Thank God, because we had drilled flexible paragraph structures." Selena sharpened her pencil until the lead snapped. That afternoon, Selena tried one last time to steal from me directly. I was leaving the art room when she stepped from behind the display boards, blocking the narrow corridor.
No cast, no followers, no audience.
That told me she was desperate. "Give me the real plan," she said. Not asked.
Said.
I almost admired the honesty.
"There isn't one," I replied.
"Don't insult me." Her voice cracked. For once, the softness was gone. "You made me waste weeks." The sentence was so absurd that I laughed. A short, sharp sound. "I made you." She stepped closer. "You knew I'd see it." "You mean steal it? You set me up. You stole from me. Because you were hoarding." There it was, her religion. Anything she wanted became unjustly withheld. I looked at the girl who had once stood over the wreckage of my life and called herself graceful. Up close, she looked younger, smaller, almost ordinary. That almost made it worse. Evil should look monstrous. It is easier to hate monsters. Harder to accept that some people destroy you over rankings, applause, and fear of being average. "Selena," I said quietly, "you still don't understand. The fake plan didn't ruin you. Trusting stolen work more than your own effort did." Her eyes shone. "You think they'll love you after this?" she whispered. "They won't. Girls like you only matter when people need something." In my first life, that sentence would have found a wound. This time it hit scar tissue. "Maybe," I said. "But tomorrow, they'll still have to write the exam with their own hands." I moved past her.
She did not stop me.
Exam dawn. That was where this story began, but not where it truly started. The sky over the school was pale and colorless, the kind of morning that made every sound feel too clear. My aunt packed me boiled eggs, rice balls, and a chocolate bar for emergency brain collapse. She kissed my forehead at the door, which embarrassed both of us. "Fear does not drive," she said, and I almost cried. On the bus, students clutched transparent pencil cases like passports. Nobody joked. At the school gate, teachers checked uniforms and reminded us to breathe, as if breathing were not the first thing fear steals. I found Nia near the courtyard fountain. She wore her lucky yellow hair clip and looked like she had slept 10 minutes. "If I throw up," she said, "tell them it was strategic." Vomiting is not an approved exam technique. Neither is psychological warfare, but here we are. I laughed, genuinely, for the first time in days. Then Selena arrived. She stepped through the gate surrounded by her usual group, but the formation was loose. Cass kept whispering at her. Selena's eyes moved across the courtyard, searching. When they landed on me, I saw the last piece of hope in her expression. Maybe Mara will panic too. Maybe the real plan was not so different. Maybe everyone is equally doomed. I held her gaze and opened my biology flashcard to the implantation timeline. Her face changed. Just slightly. Dawn did the rest, washing her beautiful features in cold light. At 6:18, she opened the Exam Dawn Emergency Review page. I knew because I saw the red heading from across the courtyard. She had kept it. Of course she had. Even after the meeting, even after official warnings, even after realizing parts were wrong, she still trusted the forbidden page most because it promised certainty. That is the secret addiction of desperate students, not laziness, certainty. They would rather memorize the wrong answer confidently than face the full shape of what they do not know. Selena read the first line. Her brow tightened. She read the second. Her fingers stilled. By the third, Cass leaned over and whispered, "What? What is it?" Selena flipped backward through the folder, then forward, then checked her phone where she must have saved photos. Her lips moved around the topic names she had neglected. Embryology, unseen prose, equilibrium, statistics interpretation, source reliability. I watched recognition hit her in waves. Not all at once. All at once would have been merciful. This was slower. She realized the emergency page contradicted teacher checklists. Then she realized she had not truly learned the checklist topics. Then she realized the girl she had tried to use had known she would do this. Her pen dropped. It rolled under the bench. Cass crouched to pick it up, annoyed, but Selena did not move. The school beauty, the untouchable star, the girl who turned stolen notes into public virtue, sat frozen under the morning sky while the exam bell waited like a blade. For one heartbeat, I felt sorry for her. That surprised me. Not enough to forgive, not enough to save, but enough to remember. She was a person, and not just the shape of my pain. She had built a life where being admired mattered more than being honest. Maybe someone taught her that. Maybe her mother, who checked ranking boards before report cards. Maybe teachers who praised her beauty and effort in the same breath until she confused appearance with worth. Maybe herself. Pity, however, is not a rope you throw to someone still holding a knife. Selena looked up at me, and whatever softness might have lived in the moment died. Her eyes were full of accusation.
Even now, she blamed me. Not the theft.
Not the lies. Not the hours she spent polishing stolen work instead of learning.
Me.
Cass followed her gaze and saw me. You, she snapped, loud enough for nearby students to turn. What did you do? The courtyard tightened. There it was, the final attempt. Make panic public, make Mara the villain, turn consequence into cruelty. I closed my flashcard and stood. I studied, I said. You should try it. A few students gasped. Nia whispered, brutal, with reverence. Cass's face reddened. Selena grabbed her wrist.
Stop, she said. Her voice was thin.
She knew the crowd was different now. Too many had seen the complaint. Too many had compared notes. Too many had survived by ignoring her. The old magic did not fill the space. The bell rang at 7 o'clock. We filed into the exam hall in lines, shoes squeaking on polished floors. Desks stood in perfect rows under harsh, white lights. On each desk, candidate number, answer booklet, blank paper, a small card reminding us to write in black pen. I had dreamed of this hall as a grave. Now it looked like a court. Selena sat 3 rows ahead and 2 columns to the left, close enough that I could see the rigid line of her shoulders. Nia sat behind me. Before the invigilator began, I pressed my feet flat to the floor and breathed the way my aunt taught me when I was 12 and terrified of thunderstorms. In for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. The first paper was biology. The invigilator told us to begin. Pages turned like wings. I opened the booklet and saw the 12-mark embryology question sitting in the middle of the paper, exactly where memory had promised. But the wording was different.
That jolted me.
In my first life, the question had asked us to describe stages from fertilization to implantation. This time, it included a clinical correlation about failed implantation and asked us to interpret a diagram. For 1 second, fear longed for the steering wheel. Then training took over. We had practiced understanding, not memorized phrasing. I labeled the diagram, explained the morula, blastocyst cavity, trophoblast, inner cell mass, implantation window, and connected it to hormone support. My pen moved steadily. 3 rows ahead, Selena turned a page. Then turned back. Then lifted her hand to ask for extra paper she did not need. Panic makes people perform competence even when no one is watching. Chemistry came next after a short break. Equilibrium dominated, as expected, but the hardest question was not from my old memory. It combined Le Chatelier's principle with an industrial yield graph and a trick about catalyst effect on equilibrium position. In my first life, I might have answered mechanically. In this one, because I had rebuilt my knowledge instead of worshipping predictions, I saw the trap. A catalyst changes rate, not final equilibrium. Temperature shifts depended on exothermic direction. Pressure favored fewer gas moles. I wrote cleanly, underlined command terms, and moved on. Selena's cough echoed twice. Literature after lunch was worse for everyone. Ms. Harrow had warned us. Unseen prose. The passage was about a woman returning to a childhood house after a flood, which felt personally insulting from the universe. For a moment, the words blurred. Returning. Ruins. Memory. But then I turned that discomfort into analysis. Structure fractured between past and present. Water imagery represented both destruction and cleansing. The narrator's restraint created emotional pressure. I wrote as if I were speaking to my former self through the margins. Survival is not forgetting. Survival is entering the room again and naming what happened. When time was called, my hand ached. Behind me, Nia exhaled like a punctured balloon. Ahead, Selena remained bent over her paper until the invigilator took it from under her pen. By the end of the second day, the school had changed temperature. Mock exams are not real finals, teachers always say, but students treat them like prophecy because rankings decide recommendations, scholarships, dorm privileges, parental moods, and the private hierarchy of who gets to speak with confidence. Selena walked out of the math paper with her face blank. Not crying. That would have drawn comfort. Blank was worse. Cass cried for both of them, muttering that the statistics section was unfair because no one said it would be that detailed. Tomas, who had once nearly followed Selena's fake plan, leaned against the wall and whispered, "You literally said it would." Cass glared at him. "No one asked you." He shrugged. "You should have." It was a small moment, but it mattered. People who once orbited Selena were discovering their own gravity. Lila came out of biology smiling so hard she covered her mouth with both hands. "I knew the implantation one," she whispered to me. "I actually knew it. That was the first joy revenge gave me that did not taste bitter. Not Selena failing. Lila succeeding. Nia passed chemistry and declared she would marry Le Chatelier if he were not dead. Even Adrian, pale from guilt and effort, said quietly, "The official checklist saved me." I did not correct him. Let him think institutions saved him. Some lessons do not need public credit. Results were posted 4 days later. The school used a digital ranking system, but everyone still gathered around the old notice board because tradition loves public suffering. I stood near the back, not pushing. My heart beat hard enough to make my ribs hurt. Not because I doubted my performance, but because first-life trauma does not vanish when evidence changes. Some part of me still expected my name to appear under investigation, still expected whispers, still expected Selena's smile at a microphone. The page loaded on the screen beside the board. A collective inhale moved through the crowd. Rank 1. Mara Ellison. Overall score, 96.4. Biology, full marks except one minor wording deduction. Literature, highest in cohort. Chemistry, highest. Math, second highest by 1 mark, which annoyed me in a healthy way. For a second, the hallway disappeared. I saw my aunt's tired hands folding laundry. I saw the yellow lamp. I saw the truck headlights losing power. My name was not a scandal. My name was not an accusation. My name was first. Nia screamed before I could stop her and nearly tackled me into the wall. Lila cried. Tomas shouted, "Art room supremacy," which made no sense but became a phrase people repeated all week. Then the crowd shifted toward the lower ranks. Selena Vale, former untouchable star, was not second, not fifth, not 10th. She was 27th. 27th is not failure in the ordinary world. In our school, for Selena, it was a public earthquake. Cass ranked 34th. 2 boys who bought the fake priority list fell below students they used to mock. The dormitory group that followed Selena's strategy evening suffered badly unless they had switched after the official warnings. The ranking page showed more than scores. It showed trust patterns. Students who attended our quiet sessions rose. Students who verified teacher checklists survived. Students who stole certainty collapsed. Selena stood near the front, staring at the screen without blinking. Her mother arrived 10 minutes later in a cream suit and heels sharp enough to puncture tile. I recognized her from my first Life's Award ceremonies, where she clapped softly, like applause was a financial investment. She grabbed Selena's arm and hissed something I could not hear. Selena flinched. For one dangerous second, pity returned. Then her mother looked across the crowd and found me. Adults like her always search for a villain when their child's mirror cracks. She marched toward me. "You," she said. "You're the girl." Nia stepped forward, but I touched her sleeve. Mrs. Vale looked me over like I was a stain. "My daughter says you sabotage students with false materials." The hallway went silent. In my first life, an adult accusation would have folded me. This time, I looked at the woman who had taught Selena blame by example and said, "Your daughter copied private rough notes after entering my classroom during PE, presented them publicly, reported me when they were wrong, and admitted in a school meeting that I never gave them to her. Ms. Fane has the record." Mrs. Vale's mouth tightened. Public facts are inconvenient because they do not care about status. "This is not over," she said. For Selena, I replied, "I hope that's true. She still has time to learn honestly before finals." That answer hurt her more than anger would have. The investigation reopened, but not against me. That was the reversal Selena had not prepared for. Ms. Fane, under pressure from Mrs. Vale's complaint and several parents furious about the strategy evening, reviewed the full chain, the corridor still, the screenshots, Adrian's statement, the forum posts, the copied slides, and the official warning Selena ignored. The school could not call it cheating because the fake plan contained no leaked exam content. It could call it unauthorized distribution of another student's materials, misrepresentation, and academic misconduct related to false attribution. Selena's Leadership Award nomination was suspended. Her recommendation letter was delayed, pending review. She was required to issue a correction to every student who attended her session. The correction was written in language so polished it barely admitted anything, but everyone understood. Some of the materials shared during the unofficial strategy meeting were based on unverified private notes that were not mine to distribute. Not mine to distribute. Those 4 words did more than any insult could. Cass tried to defend her online and accidentally made things worse by writing, "Selena only shared because Mara was hiding the good notes." Someone replied, "So she stole?" The comment received more likes than Cass had friends. By evening, Cass deleted her account temporarily, which was the teenage version of fleeing the country. Selena did not speak to me for 8 days. I saw her in class sitting straighter than ever, writing notes with violent neatness. Some teachers treated her gently because fallen stars make adults uncomfortable. Others became colder because they felt personally fooled. Mr. Rowe, who valued integrity more than popularity, called on Lila twice as often and Selena not at all unless her hand was raised. Ms. Harrow returned our essays and praised adaptability over memorized templates while looking directly at Selena's row. I did not gloat. Not publicly. Gloating would have fed her victim story. Privately, I sometimes sat in the art room and let myself feel satisfaction like warmth from a hidden heater. I had not ruined her by lying. I had revealed her by allowing her own habits to reach their natural conclusion. Still, revenge did not solve everything. My sleep remained broken. The truck dream came less often but did not disappear. My hands still shook when teachers called me to offices. And success brought new problems. Students who had ignored me now wanted friendship. People who once whispered accusations now smiled too brightly and asked for tips. I became careful with generosity. I helped but with boundaries. I shared methods, not my entire mind. When someone said, "Can I just photograph your plan?" I said, "No, but I'll show you how to make your own." Some looked disappointed. The good ones stayed. 9 days after results, Selena found me on the rooftop garden. Our school rooftop was not romantic. It was mostly cracked planters, locked maintenance doors, and a view of traffic. I went there when the art room was occupied. She appeared at the stairwell in her winter blazer, hair tied back, no followers. I closed my notebook but did not stand. "If you're here to threaten me, get it over with," I said. She leaned against the railings several meters away. For a while, she watched the road below. The wind moved loose strands of hair across her face, making her look less like a poster and more like someone who had not slept. "I used to think you were lucky," she said. That was unexpected enough to make me silent. "You?" I asked. She laughed once, without humor. "You had one thing.
Study.
If you did well, people called you hardworking. If I did well, they said, of course, Selena always does. If I slipped, everyone acted betrayed." I looked at her carefully. This was either honesty or a more advanced lie. "So you stole from me because expectations are hard." Her jaw tightened. I borrowed. "No," my voice was calm. Use the right word or leave. Wind scraped leaves along the concrete. Selena swallowed. I stole, she said. The words sounded physically painful.
Good.
Some truths should hurt when first spoken. She looked at me then, and for the first time in either life, I saw shame without performance. I told myself you didn't need it as much, she said. That you'd be fine, because you were smart. That I was only leveling things. I let that sit between us. It was a familiar poison, the way privileged fear disguises itself as fairness. In another life, I said slowly, you took more than notes from me. She frowned.
What?
I shook my head. Nothing. I could have told her. I could have described the accusation, the scholarship suspension, the road, the truck, the sound of her voice after impact. But some truths are not gifts. They are burdens thrown because we want someone else to bleed under them. Selena did not deserve my death story. I deserved to keep it mine. She gripped the railing. Did you know I would copy the fake plan? Yes. Her face flinched. So you did sabotage me.
No.
I refused to protect your theft from consequences. She looked angry, then confused, then tired. Is there a difference? There is to people who don't steal. She closed her eyes. For a second, I thought she would cry. She did not. My mother wants me to appeal. Will you? No, that surprised me too. Selena opened her eyes. I'm tired, she said, of defending things I know I did. The sentence did not redeem her. Redemption is not a sentence. But it was the first honest brick I had ever seen her place. I did not forgive her. People often rush forgiveness because discomfort feels like cruelty. I had no interest in making Selena comfortable with what she did. But I did something I could live with. I opened my notebook, tore out a blank page, and placed it on the bench between us. Finals are in 6 weeks, I said. Make your own plan. Start with official checklists. Then past papers. Then error logs. No predictions until fundamentals are done. No shortcuts you didn't earn. Selena stared at the blank page like I had handed her a weapon she did not know how to hold. Why are you helping me? I'm not. I'm refusing to become you. Her eyes lowered. She took the page. Mara, she said, and my name sounded unfamiliar without manipulation around it. I'm sorry. The words arrived thin, inadequate, almost ugly. Real apologies often are. They do not sparkle. They stand there, underdressed, unable to repair what they name. I looked at the road below, where cars moved in bright, harmless streams. I heard you, I said. Not I forgive you. Not it's okay. Just I heard you. She nodded as if she understood the boundary, then left. After the stairwell door closed, I sat alone until the sky changed color. My heart did not feel healed. It felt less trapped. Final exam preparation became a different kind of war. Without Selena's false sun blinding everyone, the grade became more honest and more chaotic. Some students improved because they stopped chasing secret maps. Others exposed how little discipline they had without gossip to guide them. Our art room group grew, then had to shrink because Mrs. Delaney complained that we were turning her storage room into an anxious monastery. We created rules. No photographing other people's work, no rankings talk during practice, no asking for predictions before completing fundamentals, no panic spirals longer than 5 minutes unless snacks were provided. Mia designed the last rule. Lila became terrifying at biology diagrams. Tomas conquered statistics and began tutoring others with the solemn intensity of a priest. Adrian kept showing up early, wiping tables, printing worksheets, and never complaining when I gave him the hardest error analysis tasks. He apologized 3 more times over the next month. I accepted the 3rd one because by then it had actions behind it. Selena did not join our group. That would have been too neat, too cinematic, too false. Instead, I sometimes saw her alone in the library with official checklists, building slow, ugly notes from scratch. Once, she asked Mr. Rowe a basic question she would have mocked from someone else months earlier. He answered it. She wrote it down. No applause followed. Maybe that was punishment. Maybe it was freedom. As finals approached, the school tried to bury the scandal under speeches about resilience and integrity. The principal gave an assembly where he said, "Academic excellence must begin with character," while carefully avoiding names. Students glanced at Selena, then at me. I hated it, not because he was wrong, but because adults love turning student pain into moral posters after ignoring the conditions that created it. After assembly, Ms. Fain asked me to stay back. My stomach tightened automatically. Offices still felt like traps.
But she did not accuse me.
She handed me a sealed envelope. "Your scholarship recommendation has been confirmed," she said. Rank committee voted unanimously after the mock results and teacher reports. The envelope trembled in my hand. In my first life, that recommendation had been suspended beneath suspicion until it was too late. Now it existed, real and heavy. Ms. Fain's expression softened. "Mara, I owe you an apology. When concerns were raised, I focused too much on preventing conflict and not enough on who had been harmed. Adults rarely say sorry without sanding the edges off. This was better than most." "Thank you," I said. She looked relieved. I did not add, "You should have done better." She knew, or perhaps she did not. Either way, the envelope mattered more. I took it home and placed it on the kitchen table. My aunt read it twice, then covered her face with both hands and cried into her palms. That was the moment victory finally entered our apartment. The night before the real national exam, I did not study until midnight. That may sound like a small rebellion, but for me, it was almost reckless. I reviewed my final error log, checked my pens, packed my admission ticket, and closed my books at 9. My aunt made noodles because she said long noodles meant long luck, even though she also said superstition was nonsense unless it worked. We ate at the tiny table under the flickering lamp. Rain tapped the window. Not storm rain, just soft city rain. "Are you afraid?" she asked. I thought about lying, then decided against it. "Yes." She nodded.
"Good."
I smiled. Fear means something matters. And don't let it drive. She pointed her chopsticks at me. Exactly. That night, the truck dream came again, but it changed. I stood at the road outside school, exam case in hand. Headlights appeared. My body froze. Then another version of me, the girl from the yellow lamp room, the girl from the hospital that never happened in this life, stepped beside me and took my hand.
She did not speak.
She simply pulled me back from the curb. The truck roared past, wind slamming my skirt against my knees. When I turned to thank her, she was gone. I woke before dawn with tears on my face and a strange quiet in my chest. Not peace exactly. Peace felt too clean. This was permission. On the morning of finals, Selena stood at the school gate alone. Not abandoned, exactly. People still greeted her, but no one orbited her. She looked thinner, sharper, less polished. She held a self-made study sheet covered in messy handwriting, crossed-out sections, and teacher checklist references. When she saw me, she gave one small nod. I returned it. That was all.
No dramatic alliance. No tearful friendship.
Some stories are stronger when enemies do not become sisters. Nia arrived with 2 chocolate bars and shoved one into my hand. "For emergency brain collapse," she said. My aunt already packed one. "Then you have double brain insurance." Lila joined us, reciting implantation timing under her breath, like a prayer. Tomas argued with Adrian about whether a statistics answer needed 2 decimal places. The gate opened. We walked in together, not as followers, not as a court around a queen, but as students carrying our own work. In the exam hall, I sat beneath the same harsh lights. My hands were steady. When the paper opened, there were surprises. Of course there were. Life is rude that way. But surprise no longer felt like betrayal. I knew how to think inside uncertainty. That, more than any prediction, was what Selena had tried to steal and failed to understand. Plans are not power because they tell you everything. Plans are power because they teach you how to move when they do not. Weeks later, when final results came, the school courtyard filled again, but the air was different. Less fever, more breath. My score earned the scholarship, the recommendation, and the top placement I had once died believing was gone forever. Nia passed higher than she expected and cried so dramatically that Mrs. Delaney threatened to paint her as the spirit of academic exhaustion. Lila ranked in the top 10 for biology. Tomas beat me in statistics and became unbearable for exactly 2 days before Nia humbled him with literature marks. Adrian earned his scholarship interview and sent me a message that said only, "I did it honestly." I replied, "Then it's yours." Selena ranked 5th. Not first. Not ruined.
5th.
Some people were disappointed by that, as if revenge required her permanent destruction. I was not. Her 5th place told a better story. Without theft, without worship, without a stolen map, she was still capable. Not untouchable. Not a goddess. A student. Maybe that was the most devastating fall of all, from myth to human. At graduation, she received polite applause, not thunder. When I walked across the stage for the Academic Excellence Award, the applause rose from unexpected places. The art room group, teachers, students I had helped build their own systems, even a few who had once doubted me. My aunt stood near the back recording badly, phone tilted sideways, crying again. I held the certificate and looked out over the hall, and for once, I did not search for danger first. Selena found me after the ceremony near the side exit, where sunset spilled orange across the steps. She wore her graduation gown open, hair loosened, makeup slightly smudged from heat or tears. "Congratulations," she said. "You too," I replied. She smiled faintly. "5th place, congratulations?" "Honest 5th place," I said. "That's worth more than stolen first." She absorbed that without flinching. Progress, maybe. She reached into her bag and pulled out the blank page I had given her on the rooftop. It was no longer blank. It had been folded and unfolded so many times the creases were soft. Covered in tiny handwriting, arrows, corrections, teacher references, mistakes crossed out in black. "I kept it," she said. I did not know what to say. "Not because I want you to think I'm good now," she added quickly. "I know it doesn't work like that. I just wanted you to know I made it myself." I looked at the page, then at her. The old Selena would have shown me a score, a certificate, applause. This Selena showed me messy work. "Good," I said. Her eyes shone, but she did not cry. "Mara, in case I never get another chance to say it properly, I'm sorry for stealing your notes, for lying about you, for making people doubt you, and for thinking my fear mattered more than your future." This apology had shape. It named the wound. It did not ask me to bandage her. I nodded slowly. "Thank you." She waited, perhaps hoping, perhaps not. I did not forgive her out loud. But I no longer felt the need to keep my anger sharpened in my pocket. Sometimes setting down a knife is not a gift to the person who cut you. Sometimes it is because your own hand is tired. Years later, people told the story differently depending on who needed to feel wise. Some said the school beauty fell because she copied the wrong study plan. Some said the quiet scholarship girl engineered the most elegant academic revenge our grade had ever seen. Some said the lesson was never trust stolen notes. Some said it was always verify exam predictions. They were all partly right and mostly shallow. The real story was not about a fake study plan. It was about the morning I woke up before my own ruin and decided not to beg a thief to become kind. It was about learning that generosity without boundaries is just self-abandonment dressed as virtue. It was about understanding that being underestimated can be protection if you use the silence well. It was about Lila discovering she could answer 12-mark questions, Nia turning fear into jokes sharp enough to cut panic, Tomas building confidence from decimals, Adrian learning that desperation did not excuse dishonor, my aunt crying over an envelope at a kitchen table, and Selena Vale sitting alone with a blank page, finally forced to meet herself without applause. As for me, I still make study plans. Very good ones. Clean headings, brutal priorities, red stars where they belong. But the cover no longer says, "Do not share." It says, "Build your own before you borrow mine." And on the first page, beneath my name, I write the rule that saved my second life. If someone only respects your work when they can take it from you, let them copy the version that teaches them who they are.